Welcome back to Conversations. This is a show that we used to do a few years back. I even put it on a mug when I started distributing all kinds of swag, which nobody buys, by the way. I don't hawk it either, by the way. But if you want a mug that says Ask Girl Anything on it, the other side of it says Conversations. And my wife, Mrs. Hammer, or as she should be known as Dr. Stephanie Bennett. Dr. Stephanie Bennett, who has her own channel, The Secret Place. We used to talk about drums, drummers, relationships, all kinds of stuff that had to do with being a drummer in this world. And my wife has written a book. It's called Relationships on the Run: How to Grow Authentic Connections and Lasting Intimacy in a Hurried Culture. So all of you are connecting with this show on social media. Social media is a prominent factor in our world today, and because of that, relationships are suffering. And we know this if you look at how culture is going today. So my wife, Dr. Stephanie Bennett, wrote a book about it, and we're going to talk about her book today. And we're not sure if this is going to be a 2-part or a 1-part or a 5-part or whatever, but one thing I do know, that this show will be the introduction to this book for sure.
Thank you so much, dear. I appreciate you. And thank you all for showing up and coming out to listen and watch. We also love to hear from you, whether you're Earl's drummer friends in the drum community or from The Secret Place. We love to hear from all of you. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. I love having conversations with you after 40 plus years. I guess you know that.
Well, and part of the way we've kept our relationship going is because we speak so often. We have a practice in our home where every morning we get together and talk. If I was on the road, like this past week I was on the road, we were on the phone for a half hour on the phone doing FaceTime talking. But usually when I'm home, like now, my real life now, we talk sometimes for an hour. We get up early enough to do that, have coffee, and spend time together. Yeah. And to keep a relationship going, it means spending time together. So that's part of what this book is. Let's talk a little bit about the people you brought into the book. The book has a foreword by Wayne Jacobson and Quentin Schultz. And I'm not sure if any of you know who these people are. So Steph, would you like to tell them?
I'll say a little bit about that. Yeah, Quentin Schultz, both of these gentlemen, Wayne Jacobson and Quentin Schultz, are friends of mine. They're wonderful mentors and peers. So many of you know Wayne Jacobson from the God Journey, the podcast. And many others of you maybe know Quentin Schultz from the communication field, that he's a scholar and academic, studying very much the same kinds of things that I study. And so I'm really honored to have both of these gentlemen speak into my work, one with an introduction and one with a foreword. Thank you. Yeah, they're very special men. And thank you for talking about coffee time too. Coffee time has been, I think, the thing that initiated long before I was in the communication field, long before I got my PhD, we knew that spending time together, even 5 minutes in the morning, even 5 minutes over coffee, was going to be important to keep us together and keep us tracking with each other about all the different things that happen and different people we see every day. And that turned obviously into like 20 minutes, and then it turned into a half hour, and then it turned into an hour sometimes, especially on Saturday and Sunday mornings. And now that we're walking every morning again, this last year,
more talking and more listening.
Yeah, and it's wonderful, and communication is just a wonderful practice. And I've written this book for people to help in communication, to help grow relationships. Not that we have the perfect relationship. We have a lovely relationship, a very close relationship. I appreciate and love our relationship all these years, all these decades. But I want other people to have that kind of depth too. And I know that there's a lot of people who long for that. And you can't just give it to someone. You can't just say, well, here's the formula for it, do it. Go ahead, you and your spouse just agree on it and do it. You can't just do it that way. So the book is meant as an encouragement.
Well, one of the things being a drummer that's so important to be a drummer is the idea of listening.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't listen to music and figure out how you fit into that music, then it's hard to relate to the music and hard to be a drummer. So one of the things that we have found in our relationship is if we have the ability to listen to one another, it makes it easier for us to be able to relate to one another and keep our relationship moving in the right direction.
Right.
You wrote a whole chapter on listening.
Yeah.
Kind of go into a little bit about that chapter and about the importance of listening and why you put it in the book.
I would love to. Because I think the first thing is most of us don't understand that there's a really big difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is got to do with the auditory function, and most of us can hear well, right? But listening is different. There's an art to listening. Listening is really focusing in and attending to what the other person is saying instead of just assuming what you think they're saying. Because there's always nuance in conversation, especially we always hear this about men and women in relationship and all the jokes about men not listening and women wanting to talk and men don't. There's jokes about that, but I think that there's something that's true. We don't tend to really zero in on what the other is saying. So there's an art to it, and that's why I wrote the whole chapter. We have to hear first. To be a good listener, we have to be able to hear. We have to be able to attend to what the other is saying, really listening intently for their heart, what is going on inside them. And that's often right between the lines, right? So you need your nonverbal communication, et cetera.
Right.
Then we need to assign meaning. We need to interpret what the other is saying. Then we need to feed back. And did you say this? Did you mean this when you said, did I hear this correctly? That's all part of the listening process. And it really helps.
And I think one of the things that in a lot of relationships that is missing is we talk past one another because we're not listening to one another. We're thinking about our response rather than listening to what the other is saying. And that caused a lot of issues when we were younger. We were miscommunicating. And miscommunication causes a lot of issues in relationships. And I think one of the areas where I've worked hard is to listen to people. And I try to do that on my channel. When you guys write to me, I try to listen to what you're trying to say and respond back to it. I think about that as part of a musical exercise, being able to listen to the music and respond back to it. And in our marriage, it's been a real important part of our relationship. It works in business too, by the way. The idea of listening and not thinking ahead is really important.
Yeah.
And it's important when you're having conversations.
Yeah.
And this is another area that you talk about in the book is how to have effective conversations and to communicate effectively and keep our relationships strong. So tell us about that part of the book, how you got into that part of the book and where you went with it. And one of the things about your book that I noticed is every chapter seems to have a specific little story.
Yeah, it starts with a story.
You remember the story for conversations a little bit?
Well,
you don't want to read it to them, so.
No, and I do want to talk about conversations, and I appreciate that question. I'm going to come back to that question, but I want to put a little pause
Blocking
there.
and bridging.
I want to put a little pause there because you said a couple of things about listening, about yourself, and about music that I think are important too. But first, I want to say you've always been a really decent listener, and that was one of the things that attracted me to you when we were in our 20s. Is that you listen and you look. You and that's a really important thing when you're talking with someone and you want to make sure they know you're listening. Look at them eyeball to eyeball. Don't stare them down like to make them feel uncomfortable, but make sure your facial expressions, your eyes are in it too. So you've always been good at that. I just want to give you a high five for that. Can I give you a high five for that?
Yeah, I'll drop the book. Go ahead.
But what you said about music is so important. It's like one of the things I learned long before I got my master's or my PhD, long before I decided I was in the field of communication, is being out on gigs with you when we had our band together. And that
wasn't always effective communication.
Well, we won't talk about that. How about we do another session on the book and talk about conflict resolution?
Yeah, there was a lot of conflict resolution in the band.
Really
days.
Funny in our 20s and our 30s. Okay,
yeah.
But we had a good time generally.
Yes, we did. It was fun.
Yeah.
Gigs.
So what I started to say was, you taught me a great lesson. I learned a great lesson from you about life and about relationships through what you said to me about music back then. And I know you must remember this. This is way back then. And I was nervous first starting out. You were, as I thought, like the consummate professional. You had already been like pro gigging out there for, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. And then we had a band and I was going to. I was like a church singer and doing other kinds of singing, but not really out there getting paid for a gig.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I was a little nervous, even though I wanted to do it. I was a little nervous. And I was like, what if I forget the words? And what if this? And you're like, Steph, just go on, just go on, just go on, and really listen. And I remember thinking, just go on, but what if I'm fumbling all over and making mistakes? You're saying, just listen to the musicians. Listen, I'll keep us on the beat and listen to what everybody else is playing. And you said, it's all about the ears. And I'll never forget that. You said, it's all about the ears. And I thought, wow, that is really true. Really listening to each other on a bandstand, on a stage, in a marriage. It's so important to really pay attention to our ears, right?
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if you want to say something about that before you attack that question again.
Well, I would say listening, when you're on a bandstand, listening, and the one thing is keep going. What I was really saying with keep going is people will miss it if you don't act like it's a mistake.
Right, and you did say that.
Right. Like the true consummate professional doesn't note the mistakes. The true consummate professional plays through it and finds a way. Many of you know drum covers where I've dropped my stick and I leave it in for a reason, because as a professional, you have to figure out, how am I going to come back in there and not lose the beat? And if you get flustered by dropping the stick or dropping a word, or changing the word, then all of a sudden that throws you off in your performance and it's over with. You're dropping the ball. It's kind of like watching our grandkids doing their recitals, with piano recitals. When you're a child, you have a tendency, you practice things, then you make a mistake, you have to go back and you get flustered by it.
Yeah.
But when you're a professional musician, you don't. You have to just plow ahead. And a lot of times in conversations, when we make mistakes, in conversations, we miss something. This is where listening is important. The other can either help you by letting it go or point it out to you, if it's something that's very important, So listening has two sides of it, right?
It really does. It really does. And we're like flowing into the conversation part. I was so glad that you brought that up and you kind of matched that there, because it's very easy to just let things go, and maybe easier for some people than others. But to let things go all the time is not good. Like if you have a conversation and it doesn't quite sit right, there's no argument, there's no big problem, but it doesn't quite sit right, like there's just a little something off, even just in your own heart or in your own mind, it behooves us to go to the person and say, hey, and a little touch doesn't hurt, right? And say,
Well,
hey, so like, hey, did I get you right when you said this? Did I misunderstand anything? It's always good to keep that going before something just blows up into a full blast miscommunication or argument or a greater conflict.
Right. And usually when we're not listening, that's when things happen. When we're not paying attention, we're not focused on what we're doing, and we have miscommunications. But conversations are opportunities for openness, opportunities to come together and chat. And you called it the art of conversation in your book. So explain that a little bit, the art of conversation.
Well, I come from a place of really highly valuing creativity. You know that. I look at the one who made us, our creator, as Big C, creator. He created all of us. And he gave us the stamp. He made us in his image. It's called Imago Dei. He made us in his image so that, we could be creative and use that creative process. Now, none of us, we're not creators like God is creator. We're like little C. We're his kids, we take after him. And anything can be creative, whether you're cooking in the kitchen or you're having a conversation. Creativity isn't just in the arts, is what I'm saying. And so let's think about ways that the conversations can be creative and can be maybe not artistic, but really creative. And one of the ways is by being open, by learning how to take the initiative to share, like to self-disclose. I find that many people who didn't grow up in an atmosphere where conversation was lively and sparky and lovely and fun. Many people grew up in a family where either you didn't speak if you were a child. Children learned to not be heard, just be there and not heard, or they have some conversation, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? it's tenuous. There's tension there, and so many of us don't grow up learning like that conversation is fun and good. Like they think it's like, I'll just get in trouble if I say anything.
Yeah, that's probably true for some people, that people do feel that way. But breaking past that is having an open relationship where you can talk to one another and feel safe.
That's right. You got to be willing. You got to be willing to open your heart.
Right, and being willing to open your heart is something that does get translated to people. You've had the ability. My wife used to write for Modern Drummer magazine, and she used to write for CCM magazine back in the day. And you interviewed a lot of people.
I did.
So you know the art of conversation to draw that out of people. And that's the key here, is being able to draw that out where people want to open up to you and communicate with you. If you can't do that, if you come off like a stiff, they're not going to want to do it. If I was doing Ask Girl Anything and I was basically not personable to the camera, nobody would watch Ask Girl Anything. I have a lot of these guys that are going to watch this maybe for 5 minutes or maybe for the whole show.
Watch it.
No, they're watching it because the way we talk to them, because we engage them in the conversation.
Of course.
And engage them in what we're talking about, the topic. And a lot of times when you know the topic so well, you sometimes you're just a talking head, but you're not really engaging.
Exactly.
And you're a very engaging person in conversation, which leads to another part of your book, which is friendships, lasting love, intimacy. You covered you went the gamut, and if I don't move us on, we'll get stuck in conversation for 25 minutes.
Well,
and
maybe,
know that.
Well, maybe your drummer friends will want us to do a second in the series.
Maybe, and we'll find out if they do. But I want to give them a full overview that this book is got 12 chapters, and it goes the gamut of things like feeling the power of presence, listening to love, speaking conversationally, discovering paths towards intimacy. I mean, this gets a little deep. There's some deep stuff in here.
There's some personal stories that were hard to write, but I felt like I needed to be open with the public, people who would buy the book. By the way, it's available on Amazon, right?
Right.
But if you decide to read it, you decide to get it, you'll see there's some stories that were hard for me to write, because I'm like most people. I don't want to just like open my heart and up to anybody attacking me or thinking the worst of me or thinking, oh, she was like that or she did that.
Right.
We all have that kind of guardedness. Some of us much more guarded. Many people are very, very guarded, and there's much fewer people who are totally open. And so I'm not talking in this book about advocating total openness and total transparency. We've got to grow in our ability to be open and open with another person. And
what are the keys to being open? What are the key points to being open?
Key points to being open? Well, I think we have to have a real curiosity towards the other. You were talking before about conversations, and this leads into what you're talking about now. We need to be able to. We need to understand that, like, asking a person a question or two to kind of start conversation or continue it or to keep it going into the next level. It's not that hard, but you have to be curious, Curiosity,
but you also got to trust that they're not going to take it the wrong way, right?
But sometimes they do.
Yeah.
So especially like you mentioned before, my interviewing of the big name drummers and celebrities and other people that I did profiles on. You can't just ask questions like you're interviewing a person, just like you just report the facts, just the facts, man. You can't just do that. You have to genuinely be interested in the other. Who is that person who's looking at me and talking to me? Mm-hmm. What is going on in his head? What's going on in her heart? Who are they? And if you're curious like that, and no one will, the person that you care about or love, or a friend will not open up to you, it's really hard. It's like you're priming the pump, but they're still not even like wanting to converse, really go any deeper into being open. One of the things you can do is practice this reciprocity, this fact that like I give, you give. You share a little bit about yourself, and usually a person will mirror that and share a little bit about themselves, And so, openness involves trust, as you're saying, and trust will grow incrementally. I think the problem is when we give everybody or anybody our whole like our whole heart to like trust them wholeheartedly, that's where you get like brokenhearted people, because we have to grow in trust. It has to be proven. Like when I tell you something, and I share something that's going on inside of me, you don't later hold it against me and throw it back at me and yell at me when I fail in that. And I don't do that to you. Well, that has to grow. Some people just do that naturally. They blame each other and scream at each other and think the worst of each other instead of the best of each other.
Right.
So part of it is that curiosity, and then that trust, and the willingness to start. The willingness to be that one that opens the heart a little bit and says, you can like just throw a little something out there. How does that person handle what you said? Do they walk away from you? Do they snicker at you? Do they laugh at you? Do they mock you? Or do they say to you, tell me more? Or I never knew you felt that way. It grows slowly. It grows slowly. And if you always wanted that kind of relationship with your friends or with your spouse, but you could never have it, or you had it once, it can be redeemed. It can come back, but that is involved in some of the other chapters in the book about forgiveness and prayer and such.
This book had a decidedly spiritual perspective.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we've done in our life is we have a deep faith and spirituality in our life. It's a big part of what we do in life, and has made our marriage the way it is, because we have something other than us that we go to when things get tough.
More than just the two of us.
Right, more than just the two
Remember
of us.
Remember that one?
Yes.
What is it? A one-hit wonder back from the 80s?
Yeah, I do. Totally remember that song. But where I was going with this is, because it has such a spiritual component, do you think it's that some people might miss some of the outlying important things that you're covering? Because you're covering a lot of things that have to do with how humans communicate, how humans relate to one another. It's about relationships. I think somebody who's not a Christian could get a lot out of this too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you talk about that angle of how somebody who doesn't have a faith could possibly learn some things about the importance of building a strong relationship. Forgiveness is one of those things that a lot of people don't understand is probably one of the most important aspects of a relationship, being able to forgive and let go.
Yeah.
And find a way to that place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that part of resolving conflicts?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. But to answer your first question, because you had like 3-part question in there.
Maybe I'm not the interviewer in this family. I'll let you interview me. Okay.
No. Well,
I'm trying.
You're doing great. I think it's a very communication is so basic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so intrinsic to who we are as human beings that it's taken for granted. People think, well, I talk, so I communicate.
Well, that's what they think with text.
Exactly.
Texting.
So I communicate.
But texting isn't communicating.
No, it's not. No, we exchange information, and that is not the same as communicating.
Right. Exchanging information is exchanging information. I mean, you go to ChatGPT and you tell it to do something, and it gives you information, but it's not communicating with you, even though they want to act like we're having a chat together.
It's the saddest thing. You're bringing that up now, and I didn't even get a chance to talk about forgiveness, but you're bringing that up now.
Well, forgive me for bringing that up.
Okay, I forgive you. It is sad that there's so many I'm going to call it dysfunctional social relationships that are happening with robots and with the different AI, as this agentic life grows all around us in our media environment. It's sad to me because there's so many people so lonely, so needing a word of affirmation, encouragement, help, friendship, just a kind note, or just a kind word, a kind conversation. And why isn't that happening? Why are people going to ChatGPT? Why?
Yeah.
Because it's messy. Human relationships are messy. And ChatGPT is like, you can just,
Well, you can act like you're having a conversation, but you're not having a real conversation.
You're not, but some, especially the youngsters, are believing that it's real.
Well, and that's...
What do you think about that?
That's a pretty scary world that we're living in now. In some respects, it can be a pretty scary world. With that being said, what would you say is the crux of your book, if you can basically put it into like a short paragraph, what is the crux of what you're trying to communicate in this book?
Oh boy. Relationships are worthwhile, even if yours is messed up, and even if you don't have one. Relationships are worthwhile. They're worth everything. God made us for relationships. He's a relational God who wants to relate to you and I, and wants to help us relate to each other and experience the beauty, the joy, the fulfillment of real friendship and real love, real family life. We cannot be close to everybody, and we cannot fill our need for relationship, human relationship, with idols and with substitutes. It doesn't work, but they are available to all of us. And the book, in a nutshell, it just tries to give examples and stories. And in some case, some of the research that I put up there is not like research heavy laden. It's not like this heavy academic book, you know.
Right. No, it is.
It's readerly.
It's readerly. It does have some questions to help.
Yeah.
Some figure out how to make the relationships better.
Yeah.
But no, it's not heavily research based. It's more based on our life. One of the things I got out of this book, reading it together as we have been doing, is that I know every chapter in this book because I've lived it with you. So this book is really an interesting look at our relationship from the outside looking in, without knowing that it's us that they're looking at, you know, and how we've dealt with things in life and how we've made things work. And even though there's other stories that have nothing to do with me, those stories are part of our life because they're around people and places we've been and lived.
That's right.
And grew through. And 43 years of marriage,
yeah, you
kind of start to, you know, you really start to become one.
The oneness really happens.
The
oneness that we had hoped that we would have, that we said on the day we married, I do, you know, has really blossomed and grown fully. And I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you too.
I think that talking about intimacy and nonverbal and sexuality and all of the other things, the prayer and forgiveness and everything, conflict resolution in the rest of this book, maybe we should save it for another time. Because
I think so.
This is like, you know,
this is pretty deep already, and we've gotten deep, way too deep. If you guys think another one of these should happen, and if you have some questions, and if you buy the book and have some questions,
you don't have to buy the book.
No, you don't have to buy the book, but if you did buy the book, you know, Amazon.com. No,
you know, Amazon does let you like look at some pages. Like I think it gives you 5 pages or whatever. So like feel free to look through that and look at some of the questions that I pose and whatnot.
Well, even if they have questions about, we're talking about our relationship, if they have some questions that aren't ultimately too personal that we would not ever talk about, but if you had something about relationships, not that we want to get in, I want to get into relationship coaching. I still want to be drumming and talking about drums and all that stuff.
But I do relationship coaching.
But that's what you do.
I do that.
I think that it would be valuable. I mean, and being a musician, a lot of times musicians have a hard time with keeping relationships.
Well, because music is such a passion, and you have to put so much into it to be good and to be playing.
Right.
And so when you're putting so much into it, it's like very typically everything else is going to suffer to a degree. Even if you really love someone and you really care about your friends and whatnot, that's going to suffer. So you got to work with those people and with that spouse so that it doesn't break up or it doesn't cause problems. Right.
And ultimately, to make a relationship work, you have to care enough about the person you're relating with, that you're intimate with, that your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, you have to care about them enough that you bring them into your music. And one of the things you always did was you always supported drumming, to the point of learning it enough to do Modern Drummer magazine interviews when we were very young back in those days.
I wanted to support you.
I know. I saw that, you know.
Well.
So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot in this book. Relationships on the Run, How to Grow in Authentic Connections and Lasting Intimacy in a Hurried Culture. There's so much to talk about here, but we're going to tie it up right now. If you have any questions, any thoughts, leave them in the comments. Please like and subscribe. And please find my wife's channel. My wife's channel is called The Secret Place. It's more spiritually based. Some of you know that already. Some of you already are there. Thank you all that are. And we just want to say thank you and Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Come back.